So I'm going to hand over to our first speaker this morning. Gerald Dixon has a 20-year local and international management experience across health, fitness, recreation and aquatic facilities. He holds a degree in sport exercise and is currently the Centre Manager at Ballarat Aquatic and Lifestyle Centre and manages 4 of Ballarat's seasonal outdoor facilities. Prior to joining the team at Ballarat, Gerald worked with YMCA Victoria in partnership with the City of Maribyrnong. He has particular interest in the benefits of exercise for mental health and localised collaborations and partnerships to bring about improved community health and wellbeing outcomes. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you.
I'm Gerald Dixon. I'm the manager at the Ballarat Aquatic and Lifestyle Centre, and I've been there for about 18 months. And today I'm giving a bit of a follow-up from last year where we spoke about an incident that occurred in our centre. And today it's more of an overview of the things that happen around the incident and after the incident, with the intent to confirm that maybe you're doing it already correctly, or maybe some lessons to be learnt that you can take back to your centres. So I'll just revisit what actually happened. The incident itself, it was a lap swimmer doing his early morning laps. He suffered a serious medical event. At the time it was suspected but then confirmed as a cardiac arrest. There was an aquatic rescue performed by 3 lifeguards who had to perform CPR. The swimmer unfortunately could not be revived by the lifeguards or the emergency services that attended on site, and unfortunately he passed away. So the people that were involved in the incident on the day, obviously we had ambulance, police and the fire brigade. Funeral director, for those of you that don't know, they come to collect the deceased. We had WorkSafe on site to do an inspection. Our My Safety team, now new organisations are maybe called something different, health and safety, risk or by another name. Our executive leadership team, local media who are knocking on the door almost instantly. And then we have the staff directly involved, and by that I mean the people who actually perform the rescue, and then the staff who are indirectly involved, so those people who are actually in the vicinity of the incident and also witness the incident too. So this is in no particular order. Some of them happened at about the same time, but this is sort of a rundown, a high-level rundown of the things that happened post-incident and around the incident. I arrived on site quite quickly after the incident had occurred, so immediately closed the centre. We had a staff debrief and support session for all the staff who were either directly involved or indirectly involved, and obviously the offer of our employee assistance program. Comms to the public, so communication to the public involved obviously telling them that the centre's closed, but one of the good things from that event as well is we also extended an offer of support. So there was a message that went out to any patrons via Facebook. If they were there in the centre at the time and needed some support, they could contact us. And we had some really good feedback about that. The WorkSafe Inspection. We had a crisis counsellor who came on site the following day for all staff to talk to. Then there was a direct follow-up with the staff themselves who were involved in the rescue. So that was myself, our middle management team, in regular contact with the lifeguards to make sure that they were okay. The debrief with the paramedics. I've spoken to everyone who was involved on the day, and if there's one thing on the list that you want to take away, that was the most important to the lifeguards who were involved. Now, we were fortunate in Ballarat that the paramedics who were on site on the day also were the ones that came and spoke to our lifeguards. The lifeguards genuinely agreed that whilst they'd had really good support, there were still feelings of guilt, or could I have done more? And really to hear the paramedics tell them, look, that type of event, it's pretty hard to come back from. It's rare for them to be able to revive someone who suffered that type of an event. Really hit home for lifeguards and sort of took away those feelings of guilt that were associated with the event. So that's a real big one to put on your list if this type of incident ever occurs in your sites. Then there was the return to work, which essentially was the reopening of the centre. The way that we dealt with that as a leadership group, we spoke about whether or not we should reopen the following day or take another day. There was no pressure from our executive team to reopen. The middle management elite team leaders spoke to their teams, and the decision was made that we did want to reopen the following day. But there was no pressure to reopen immediately. And then obviously the return to work of the affected staff. So as I already mentioned, we spoke to them throughout the week. There was no pressure for them to return, but all the lifeguards were back on shift by Friday, and the incident had occurred on Monday. Just going back to the WorkSafe inspection, so there was a WorkSafe inspection. It was a notifiable incident, obviously. There was an inspection later that morning. I think some key things, just looking at the report, that you can take away. They did look closely or ask questions about how the rescue was performed. They really did look closely at our lifeguard deployment plan and how many staff were on shift. Look closely at our life-saving equipment and the proximity to the pool, and whether or not our staff are fully trained. So you may already be over that pretty closely, and if you're not, get on it. It's obviously one of those things that it should be a given, it should be mandatory, but they do get checked. Sort of the summary for me in terms of how do you prepare, or how can you best prepare. One of the things on the day that made it not as hard, I mean, it was a very, very stressful day, there's no denying that. It was hard on the whole team and hard on management. But the fact that the lifeguards were following a structured lifeguard deployment plan and had followed it to the T, and the person had been rescued almost instantly, really made the rest of the day easier to deal with, because the focus then was mainly on supporting the staff and getting the other stakeholders through, such as WorkSafe, to do their job. So there had been a lot of work done pre-event to bring our lifeguard deployment plan up to standard. So that was one thing that made it easier on the day. The other thing was we had a really strong relationship with our My Safety team, and again there had been a real emphasis on risk management and a safety culture. As a result, the My Safety team were there within minutes of the incident occurring, and they were able to handle a lot of the conversations, such as dealing with WorkSafe or anyone else for us. So it's really important to have that strong relationship with that team, whoever that is in your area. And the other one is manager or middle manager visibility when you are developing that culture and maintaining that culture. It's one thing to have a lifeguard deployment plan, but it doesn't mean anything if it's just gathering dust in an office somewhere. You have to be out and about, making sure that it's being followed correctly, and making comments when it's not.
Can you all join me in thanking Gerald?